Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 559, our top games of 2024.
Welcome, citizens, to Meeple Nation. Grab your favorite beverage, pull up a chair, warm up those dice, and join us at the game table as we discuss board games and the board gaming world. Each week, the hosts of Meeple Nation share their love for board games and the amazing memories that come from playing games with some very outstanding people. Let us now join our hosts in their natural habitat, the game table.
It's hard to believe the year is near its end.
It has gone by really fast.
It has. Everything's flown by since 2020.
Yeah. Well, and creating a list of games for the year 2024, you start looking back over the year and you're like, come on, I swear that was this year. I swear I played that this year. Come on, that had to have been this year. And then you're remembering times you played games that were, over a year ago. It's like, come on.
Doug, it's really kind of weird. Andy's missing.
Yeah.
And so I found this guy on the street. Actually, this guy just kind of wandered in my house.
Yeah.
So
he looks vaguely familiar. Like I might have seen him from that one thing.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
So we thought we'd just to fill in, we thought we'd ask him to do the sponsorship.
Of course you did. Meeple Nation Podcast is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com. Game Toppers are awesome. They have so many great accessories for your game night. Obviously, starting with the topper itself, fits on any table, most any horizontal surface. You can turn into an amazing game table with an amazing mat with beautiful art. It's nice and soft. Your dice bounce perfectly on it if you're playing a dice game.
They roll sixes constantly.
Nothing but, even with those D20.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
No, they're just great. Great products. Go check them out. GameToppersLLC.com.
Excellent. We are the hosts of Meeple Nation. I'm Nathan Howard.
I'm Dave Holliday.
And I'm Douglas Stewart.
Wow. So it's kind of weird, Doug.
Yeah, it is weird. It's weird that Andy can't be here. He has a work obligation tonight, so he couldn't be here. And then we got this stranger, Dave, off the street. So yeah, it's kind of a crazy night. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah, I was sitting up here waiting, and I assumed it was you that was coming in the door. And then Dave pops his head around the corner, and I was totally aghast.
I was actually going to use the word aghast just now.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at you two.
We are on the vibe right now.
Yeah. We need to bust out medium.
There
Right.
we should.
You guys would dominate at medium right now.
So I'm really excited that I'm able to be here because obviously it has been a while.
It has been a day or two.
I am on a break in school for Christmas. And so I decided, you know what? I got to get over there.
And we're glad you did.
Yeah.
At least we think we're glad you did.
Yeah,
We'll see how the episode goes.
Yeah.
No, it's great to have Dave back. That's awesome.
Meeple Nation has a website. It is full of all sorts of goodness. There's even stuff about you, Dave.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we didn't take it down. We didn't even put you in emeritus status. You're still, for some reason, you're still a host.
Nice.
That's it. That's where I've seen him before.
I've seen his face on
webpage.
meeplenation.com.
I've seen that face somewhere before.
Yeah. So if you want to have a refresher course on Dave, jump on over to meeplenation.com and on the blog page, or not the blog page, he did one blog ever, but and it was an exceptional blog. It was blogtastic.
Okay.
Bloggerific.
It was. It went in the blog Hall of Fame.
Just waiting to see where all this goes, Nathan.
Is that the
Straight down
Pick a direction.
in a swirling motion. But anyways, you can also find a boil. How about a bio on Dave there as well? But also on meeplenation.com, you can find a Patreon link. But like Dave, you can become part of Meeple Nation officially and join us at patreon.com. We love our patrons. They help us out so much and help keep things going until...
I totally thought you were going until next time. I was like, wait,
thought I was actually.
So short and sweet today, folks.
That's it. We're out.
Just a quick check-in and we're out.
All right. I'm out. I'm done. Somebody should check their watch.
Say by the clock, because it is indeed highlight 30, and we can finally move on from this
Thank you.
very bizarre intro to the episode.
I want my giggle back.
I don't. I thought it was well spent.
So normally I have a hard time picking my highlights. I maybe I shouldn't say normally because normally hasn't happened for such a long time. But This time it was very easy because I graduated with my associate degree in nursing. So I am, well, as soon as I pass my NCLEX, I will officially be an RN, which isn't necessarily my highlight. It would be, except that I still have a couple semesters for my bachelor's, so I don't really feel like I'm done. But because of that, I actually made it to game night twice in a row.
Twice in a row. Once you even brought food.
Oh, and it was good too.
Oh, I did. That's
Yeah,
right.
those pork sliders you brought were really good.
Yeah, they did turn out. I was pleased.
Awesome.
So my highlight is just the fact that I got to show up and play some games with y'all.
Yeah, that was good times.
Now, in the absence of Andy, maybe we can talk about this because he's not here. You got to play the one night. I know. I don't know everything you played, but the one night I know you and Andy played From the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
How did that go?
How did that go?
It was good. I got destroyed. Not as badly though as everybody else who played it with him.
Yeah.
We were comparing the scores and everything, and I did better than most people. But yeah, he handily,
That's because it was a 2-player game.
he handily beat me.
Probably. Yeah.
If it had been more than 2, it would have been, you would have lost by a lot more.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I showed up just as he was finishing the teach, and you were like, "Hey, do you want to join this one over here?" And I was like, "No, I sure don't."
I wondered what that was about. I thought that might be the case.
Yeah. No. That I think to me is like Terraforming Mars is to Andy. It's just a no-go zone.
Well, it's probably for the exact same reason, because Andy ruined the game for you.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep, that's it. But I am glad you had a good time. So you'd play it again?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, good. Because I know somebody who has a half magnetized version of it.
Oh, really?
I know somebody who drilled a bunch of holes in their stuff and took a lot of time to like glue magnets on everything.
He didn't drill any holes. He did put magnets on.
Okay, who glued magnets
super
to
glued
everything.
magnets to the miniatures.
But maybe forgot to check the polarity of some of them.
Maybe. He thought he had it straight. Thought he had it all worked out until he tried to put a astronaut in there, and instead of being securely locked in, he was ejected. And now it's
Egg, are you that kid?
yes. Nice. I like that. No, I used to beat him up. We should do an episode on all about old movies that people should go back and watch.
I think you did that just a couple episodes
we
ago.
kind of did. It was like a little mini.
Yeah.
We've talked about doing like a bonus, like other media episode. We might have to do that sometime.
That would be fun.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's great. My highlight, if we're ready to move on,
Let's
if that's
do it.
okay. My highlight is I've been playing the Isofarian Guard. So this is a really cool game that released. I think it's officially a 2023 game, but it had released and come out the first wave, whatever, and then they added a little bit of content to it and did like a second printing of it on Kickstarter. So I backed that. It showed up probably about a month ago on my doorstep. It might have even been a little bit longer than that because I sat there for just a little while before I could get to it. But I finally got to tear into this box. This is a bigger than Gloom. This is like the box is like twice the size of Gloomhaven.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, it's a massive, like one big, massive coffin box.
Did it come with legs so you can just use it as a table?
No, but that's such a good idea. I bet you could build some. Yeah. Anyway, awesome, like really, really cool game. It's kind of got that fantasy setting, though it's not the like Dungeons and Dragons version of fantasy, right? It's definitely the fantasy world, but it's not as fantastical, if that makes sense. It's mostly humans, and there are definitely beasts and critters and factions and that kind of thing. But you're basically this patrol of guards who is out to defend Isofar from their enemies. And then they kind of stumble across some things and realize that there's a greater evil at play, and they inherit some powers and have to go sort of rebuild the base for this. I think it's the Stone Wards or the Stone Watch or something like that. And then they go out on these adventures. Now, what makes this game unique and I think really cool is the way that it's structured. It actually there's 5 campaigns that come in the box, and each campaign follows 2 of the characters as a pair that go out. And so the game is either a 1-player game, like you play as 1 player who controls both of the characters that are out on the mission, or you can play it 2-player where you each get to control a character. But they're not like super long campaigns. They're relatively short. Each campaign I think is structured. It has 4 chapters for each campaign. A ton of side quests, main quests, all that kind of stuff. But it's super fun. This game is a bag building game. So you're going to build as the game goes on, you're going to build a bag, and then you've got a bunch of cards and a huge tableau. And so you've got all these abilities you're triggering. And so as you draw tokens out of the bag, or like if you get the set that I did, it's got like the nice poker chips or whatever. So you pull those out, you throw them on the cards to activate the abilities on the cards, fight enemies, gain a ton of loot, upgrade your character, so on and so forth. I have so far really liked this. I'm in the middle of campaign 1. I'm almost done with chapter 2, moving into chapter 3, and I have thoroughly enjoyed it. This does come with the Foreteller app, or I think
nice.
I think they call it Stage now. I can't really tell what it's still marketed as Foreteller, but the app is Stage on my phone, and I'm not sure exactly how all of that works. But the narration is top notch. It's fantastic. And so I can, while I'm moving pieces around and getting stuff set up, I can just hit play on that, and it makes it really nice, makes everything like flow really easy, and makes the story a little more cohesive. But so far, I've been loving the Isofarian Guard. It's really good.
Awesome.
I love how I'm just looking at some pictures, and the miniatures have both players on one base.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so they're like back to back trying to protect each other and watch each other's back.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's shown there, but one of them is removable.
Yeah,
I'm just
like, looking at the one.
It's like a base with one mini on it, and then there's little peg holes or whatever where the second mini can be dropped in, because as the story progresses, you may split up or have to go, or we only have one at a time or something like that. So yeah, it's kind of cool how they've done that. I like it.
Well done indeed.
Lots of little touches like that are actually really cool.
The box itself reminds me more of Foundations of Rome.
That's actually probably a pretty close comparison. Yeah, it's like a Foundations of Rome style or size box, maybe just a little bigger.
It looks like Schrodinger might have been involved as well.
Yeah, there was the picture with the cat in the box. Yeah, this looks really cool.
It's one that I would love to play with someone else, but it could only be played with someone else.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But 8.7 on BGG.
Yeah, we're seeing that
Weighted
too.
3.11. So it's got some good crunch, but it's not overly heavy. Very, very well liked and well rated game. It's, again, so far been very good.
Excellent. Well, I got the chance to play a game called Tower Up. This is one that I saw at BGG when we were there in November. And since we came back, it's one that we picked up. And this is a 2 to 4 player game, fairly short time, very lightweight game. But this is you're starting in different areas of the map, and you are building skyscrapers. And so when I first saw this, I was kind of disappointed. I was comparing it visually to Skyrise, which is very stunning miniatures, and I was kind of calling it the poor version of Skyrise.
Poor man Skyrise.
Poor man Skyrise. But after playing it and having a greater understanding, I totally get why it can't be like Skyrise. Because as you build a building, you're going to choose one of the spaces that is adjacent to the building that you're building, and you're going to add a level to those areas that are next to it. And as you try to, your stack goes up, you can put a cap on it, and then you can, the way the board's set up, you can only go, I think it's 4 levels high, maybe 5 levels high before all the paths are blocked off that a building can no longer be stacked upon, so that is the maximum you're going to score for that point. And you're trying to, there's different regions on the board that you're trying to maximize the majority in each of these regions of the board. But it's much like Captain Flip, right? Where I was judging a game by its appearance, and Tower Up was very pleasing. And
good. Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to, I don't think I got to play it with you, Doug. I think the night we brought it out,
yep.
Andy was late and you weren't here. So it was Doug. It was not, you weren't here, but it was...
We've established that I was not there.
So I think you weren't there. There was only an app I could check to see who was there. But James was there.
Probably Greg.
And Greg was there. And I think it was the 3 of us. And we were waiting for Andy to show up.
What about Doug?
I can't remember if Doug was there or not. I'd have to check the app. Oh,
man.
But anyways.
This is causing a lot of eye rolls out there, just so you know.
It is. I can hear them now.
Yeah.
But anyways, it has a really nice insert into it. But James is like, hey, I want to take this home and do a 3D version of it. And so he went and upgraded my cardboard insert to a 3D insert. And the insert was kind of funny at first, but when I was looking at it, but as play goes, it does make some sense and is a well put together insert, even if you don't have the 3D version of it. So, but Tower Up was great. I very much enjoyed it.
This is one I definitely want to try. It aesthetically reminded me a lot of Rolling Heights.
Yeah.
Which was not a game that I liked very much, mostly because of the rolling meeple gimmick that just didn't work for me. But this one looks like one that I would very much enjoy.
Yeah.
So
it does have an appearance, but is nowhere similar.
Yeah, right. Not even. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is a point in its favor, if I'm being honest. But great. No, that's awesome. I hope we get to the table very soon. All right. Well, that is going to take us into this week's the soup du jour. That's what would soup of the week be?
Soup of
I'm not even going to try.
Yeah, I don't know.
Thanks, Dave.
It's so helpful.
You and everybody else listening were saying the exact same thing. Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah. Good to have you here, Dave. That's real excellent. No, so we're going to break down, I think, our favorite games of 2024. It looks, as I'm kind of just glossing over the notes here, I think we took similar-ish approaches, though maybe not.
I mean, there is some similarities, but each of us took a different approach because there was no format given.
For sure, right.
And each of us kind of took, like I said, somewhat of a similar path, but then a different path as well. Because both of us made two lists.
Right. Yep.
Dave, we're happy you're here.
Yeah. As I have been busy with other things and occupied, I was not able to prepare, so I won't have a whole lot to contribute.
But we're still very glad that you're here, Dave.
I might pipe up a couple of times.
Oh, good. We'll nudge you every once in a while
to keep me awake.
To make sure you're not asleep.
Awake, yeah. So for me, I do feel like these lists, and I'm thinking about the people who will listen to the podcast, and I'm thinking that, like, for me, I think that it has maybe just a little bit more value. I'm not saying that doing it a different way doesn't have value, but I think it would just have a little bit more value to me to kind of look at the year, like the games of the year, stuff that actually released in 2024 that we got played. Now, that being said, as gamers, we all know that there's stuff that's new to you in a year that you just got to the table that might be super old. I mean, one of them that's on my played in 2024, but is definitely not a 2024 game was Firefly. We just got that to the table. Now, had that been...
We did play the version that was released in 2024.
And that's true. So I guess for that specific example, one could maybe make some concessions.
Yeah.
However, it was a 2013 game.
Yes.
And so, I didn't include stuff like that for me, and not at all to say that, because I don't think you did, Nathan, and I'm not at all saying that was the wrong approach. But for me, I did make a list of like highlight games for the year that were awesome, that were not 2024 games. And I'll probably mention some of those when we're done, but I'm trying to stick to the top 10 that were actual 2024 games that I thought were real standouts.
Yeah. And where I went to my key highlights, and of which my number one game is not a 2024 release for the year, highlight game of the year. However, I also did make a second list that was, it's a 25 game list of games that released in 2025, games that released in 2024 that did make my list. And it's kind of funny because those games have overlap and the games are not in the same order.
Yeah.
Which is kind of because I looked at my list for the highlights of 2024 of overall games, and I'm like, okay, these games excited me. I was very anxious to play these. And then I look at the overall list of games that were released in 2024, and I looked at how those games stand out as using different mechanics or using mechanics in a different way that makes them unique and stand out a little bit more.
Nice. So as we go through the top 10, which one are you going to be pulling from? Are you pulling from your strictly 2024 list, or are you going to be using your highlights for you 2024?
I think since your focused list is on games that were released in 2024, I'll follow along and do my top 10 out of that list as well.
Okay. Well, let's burn through these because there are some great games on the list, but I actually think some of the highlights, the games that weren't 2024 games, would be worth spending a little time talking about afterward as well. So
I agree.
Okay, awesome. I'll go ahead and start us off. My number 10, Star Wars, the deck building game. the Clone Wars edition. So the Clone Wars edition is technically it's a standalone. It's not an expansion for the other deck building game. It's its own thing. You could play it by itself. We've talked a lot about this on the podcast. It's probably collectively one of our all-time favorite 2-player deck builder games. It's wonderful. The theme really oozes through. We've talked a lot about where we'd like to see it go in the future. We hope there's a lot more content for this. This is just a really great standout game. And in my opinion, I think it's a shared opinion, but the Clone Wars edition was better than the original edition. So
yeah, I totally agree.
It made my number 10 for the year. I think that was an outstanding game. My number 10, Star Wars, the deck building game, Clone Wars edition.
That says a lot because I know all of us have enjoyed the original 2-player deck building game, the Star Wars.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is still very similar, but there's some nuances that are different. The base planets are a little bit different, and I mean I think that and we've talked.
The factions are quite a bit different.
Yeah.
I think that for me is why I liked it better, right?
Yeah.
Because like in particular with that core box, I didn't really much care for the rebels. Right? It's the rebel. Yeah, the rebels. Like the Jyn Urso. That card in particular just drives me crazy. I hate that card. But anyway. Plus they flex their humor muscles in this new one. The Jar Jar Binks card is particularly funny.
Yes, that is a nice touch.
Kick out of that. And
yeah.
There was a little more tongue in cheek, and I think the mechanisms on it were a little better. But
yeah.
Cool.
But we did talk about that wanting it to not necessarily have your bases be so symmetric and
correct,
and give some variety of there's a wide breadth of characters and worlds within the Star Wars universe. So it would be really nice if they took advantage of those.
I concur.
Excellent. Well, my number 10 is a system that is somewhat new to me, was introduced to me this year, but this is the Undaunted series. Doug, you introduced me to Undaunted Berlin. Is that what it was called?
I believe I just taught you Undaunted Normandy.
Normandy, yes.
Yeah. Undaunted
Normandy. And this was a system that I was a little bummed out that I hadn't jumped on because I love this. The system works where you have your troops and your troops are represented by your troops are represented on the board. However, you have a certain amount of units within that troop that are represented as cards within your deck. And so as cards are eliminated, that troop unit can come on and off your board as when you don't have those units available. But and I never did say the name of the game, did I?
Mm-mm.
No.
This is Undaunted Callisto 2200.
Nathan Howard, everybody.
Yeah.
King of burying the lead.
So it's not intentional. Sometimes the ADD just kicks in, and I think I've already introduced it. But I really like how this is all set up, and I really like that it comes with a lot of boards, which I know weighed that game down a lot and probably increased the price of it a lot due to that weight. But it is so nice to just be able to drop that board out there. There's no, you don't have to worry about cards getting shifted or out of order. That is the board, and you can just go to town and battle it out.
Yep. Yeah, and it made it so that the individual areas weren't all squares.
Yeah.
Right. Like they were a little more freeform. Not that necessarily affects gameplay, but it just made it visually a lot more interesting. Those battle maps. So I actually was watching some online reviews, and there were a couple that were had really docked at points for all the heavy boards that came in the box. And I was like, I'm not at all. I don't at all agree with that. I think it was a really smart move to do that. I think there's 4 boards and they're double sided. So there's 8 individual maps, and it makes setup and cleanup so much easier. So I thought it was a great move. That's a really good pick.
Excellent.
My number 9 is one that we all got introduced to at BGG-Con. It was a fantastic experience. This was Sam Stockton from BA Games that taught us this. This was Forges of Ravenshire. And I really love this game and can't wait to play it again. So I know we've gotten it to the table a few times since then, but it just continues to I think hit on all levels. This is a great game. Forges of Ravenshire is fantastic.
And this is one I know you've played, Dave. So what did you think of it?
I enjoyed it quite a bit. I don't remember it.
Oh, great.
But I know I played it and I liked it.
I just remember Andy said Dave broke it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
But I don't know if that's actually true or not. I think he just was saying that because he lost.
Yeah. And if I remember it was it was a handy defeat. An Andy defeat, actually. We'll say that.
Nice. I like it. I approve.
Nice.
But yeah, it was a really good game. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I can see this as a solid pick for your top 10.
Yep. This is a really cool dice. Like you place dice out and then you get to take a dice back. So it kind of has a little bit of that Raiders in the North Sea feel to it. And then you can trigger a whole cascade of stuff. And then you go into the forging side where, after everyone's placed and taken their dice, you're basically crafting, all your gear and trying to earn as many points by doing that. And it just works. It works really, really well. One of the funny things about this that I thought was, I thought it was humorous is this is like woodland creatures. Right. But they must be working for the humans because all of that stuff they're creating is very much built for humans and not for, say, foxes or rabbits.
Well, it didn't say the actual size, so they might have been very small swords and very small shields. I've seen Narnia.
Okay, maybe small swords and shields could be for the animals, but the armor was definitely not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I have no argument to that.
Nathan's like, I can suspend my disbelief. It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally.
It doesn't bug me at all. I just thought it was funny.
No, it's a very valid point. All right. My number 9 is a lovely game called Loot. Loot. One extra O in there. Loot. Did you get that, Dave?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you have that many fingers?
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Got
right.
it. We're good.
Loot. So Loot is a Viking game where you have a number of Vikings. I can't remember the number. I want to say it's 12 Vikings that you are going to place out on the field and use those Vikings to collect resources. The trick is you have to add your Viking to the path that's already out there. You can start a new path that starts at the longboats, or you can add on to any path that is already out there. So that can be a path of somebody else's color or a path of your own color. Ideally, you want to use some of your own colors so that you can take advantage of some of the buildings that you can collect. But mostly every time you put out a Viking, you're going to collect either sheep, trees, gold, or axes. And you're going to use these resources to complete requirements to building longboats. And as you build those longboats, you'll flip that tile over. And to build it, you have to surround the longboat tile. You're going to put it on your board. And as long as you have the resources adjacent to that hex, then you're going to be able, if you have those correct resources, you're going to flip that tile over. And then that tile will increase the value of a resource that is on the board. So this game is, there's also, you have three buildings that are on your board that you're trying to complete. And each of those buildings are asymmetric. So they have very similar number of resources that are required, but those exact resources do vary from player to player. And those resources are randomly dealt out each game. And then you are trying to go out and plan for the most. And when you land, there's also other buildings that are on the main world map. And if you land next to a house, you can put that house onto your board, which could be a requirement for your 3 key buildings that you're trying to work on. There are towers, and to connect, to build the towers, you're going to claim 2 towers on one turn, but you have to have a continuous path of your Vikings between the 2 towers, and then you'll take those 2 pieces, add them to your board. Or if you have a path of 4 of your Vikings and you are adjacent to a fortress, then you can take that fortress and add it to your board. And then you're going to use your longboats to modify your scoring. And you're going to get that end scoring at the end of the game. And for every longboat that you don't complete, you're going to lose points for those. But I really liked the variety of not having to build on your own. You can branch off of anybody else's path and try to monopolize what resources are going to benefit you and take advantage of the longboats that are out on your turn. Whether you can afford to build them or not, you can always put them on your board. And it just gives you a lot of variety and score options to the game. And I like it very much. And that's
cool.
Loot.
Sounds fun. Yeah. You had me at 3 O's.
That's all it takes. Oh.
Yep. That's awesome. Yeah, another one I haven't played, but would like to. That's great. My number 8 is Wormspan. This is one that kind of surprised me when I was looking back at games for the year that it was a 2024 game. I don't know why in my head I had it that this has been out for a while and that it was like a 2022 or 23 game, but it's a 2024 game and I'm glad that it was. It's a good game. I like how this took the Wingspan formula, and I think just like I hesitate to say improved it.
I don't.
I think, yeah, I know you don't. I think that it did improve on it in some ways, but mostly it's just, I think it uses the same DNA to do something a little bit different. I really love the art and components. I love how you run the caves and you want to try to time that and manage your resources. I just think that this is overall a really well-produced, well-designed Stonemaier Games game. Wormspan, my number 8. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I approve of all those reasons why it's better than Wingspan.
I thought you might, Nathan.
I still haven't played this one. It's one that everybody that I know that's played it really has enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And although I think most of those people, it's not better than Wingspan.
Well, that's because they don't know what they're talking about.
I think most of the people that you play with, Dave, though, appreciate a game like Wingspan for how much content is out there and how like big and diverse the game is, which is exactly one of the reasons why Nathan doesn't like it. But I can totally see that. And I absolutely respect people who like, who still like Wingspan more than this. I think that's very valid. I actually don't really, I kind of go back and forth. They're different enough that I totally get the similarities. I get the same DNA. I get all that. They're different enough that I think they're both good. And I think the mood would just strike to play each one of them at different times. And there's nothing wrong with that. They're both good.
From what I've seen, I think I would probably like this one better than Wingspan.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's a better game.
According to one of us. Anyway, that's my number 8, Wormspan. I really do think that it's a fantastic game.
My number 8 is a lovely game called Aguida, City of Umbrellas. This is a beautiful looking game where you have a bunch of umbrellas that you are trying to draft from the umbrella pool and place them on your board. And as you put umbrellas as a certain color, you can use your tourists to take pictures and score you points. And then at the same time, you're trying to build a mural and earn points that way. I just really like how all this comes together and is a very beautiful looking game with fun umbrellas and is really unique, I think, in my opinion, especially how you draft at angles and how those slots fill.
Yep, I agree. I thought that was really well done.
And I mean, the mural is kind of a nice touch. It's not a highlight, but drafting those umbrellas, the way you draft the umbrellas, the way they're filled, and the way you fill them onto your street to place those umbrellas, I think was very well done.
Yeah,
and
it's colorful. Yeah, and it's tactile. Those little pieces are really fun to play with and put out on your board and everything. I think it's a very well produced game. Yep.
Yeah, it gives you the same feels like something like Azul,
for sure,
but is very much different than that, but enjoyable nonetheless.
Yep, this is a game that I liked. I didn't love it, but I liked it, and I'd like to try it again sometime to see if it might grow a little bit, because it was good. It just, you know how sometimes a game will set its hooks, or it's like, oh, I really want to play that again. It was like, that was a good experience, but it's kind of like moving on. And it's one I think I'd like to revisit, because I think I need to give that one another shot, because I think it probably deserves a little more credit than I give it. So that's awesome. My number 7 is another one that really surprised me this year at how good it was. This is Invincible, the hero building game. Man, I was really blown away at how good this one was. It's fantastic.
This is the one you played at SaltCon.
Yes, we played this at SaltCon, played this with Max. And then I took it home, and me and Brigham played through the campaign, but it's really, really good. The heart of this game, though, this is a game where you get to add cubes to your bag over the course of the game and really build out your character. And the way that you draft superpowers and abilities into your sort of tableau, and then the way that you're building out your cubes, it's amazing, like how well they've managed to like balance the threats that are coming out and what you have to do and accomplish as a team. To fight the bad guy and to rescue civilians and do all these things. You're not, there's not a ton of threat to start the game out, but you're also fairly weak. But as the threat ramps up, you have to make sure your character is ramping up at a commensurate rate. And it's a really fun balance trying to know like, okay, do I hold back just a little bit and put a little bit more resources into sort of quote unquote leveling up? Like, so I have more resources to spend on cards and cubes and those types of things. Or do I just, go smash stuff and maybe not have as much of a leveling up opportunity between rounds. I also like that while there is a campaign, you can just go play a game of this, right? You can just sit down and play a game of this, no problem. And it's complete, and you get that sort of leveling up, gaining XP, buying new cards, that really heroic end game finale type feel out of it every time you play it. So I was thoroughly impressed with Invincible, the hero building game. Very fun.
Excellent. My number 7, I actually already talked about in the highlights, and that is Tower Up. So no real need to go over that again.
Nice. Very nice. And my number 6, we talked about earlier because it was Undaunted 2022 Callisto. This is definitely one I want to play a lot more of.
For sure.
I was very impressed with this game. I love all the Undaunted games. And it's the big barrier for me is just the whole 2-player thing. Yeah. Because if we could play more, I would be pushing it a lot more. It's one of my favorites. But because it's 2-player only, it can be a little difficult. But I'm really glad that we got this one played this year. I thought they did a fantastic job with Callisto. I like the exit from the World War II, like the theater of war, into the future. I think that allowed them to do some fun things and provided some unique design space and opportunities. And like we talked about, I think the production's really good. I also really like how this uses like high and low ground. So the dice, I don't know if you remember that, but like you actually are rolling different dice depending on whether you have the high or low ground. Might be a little bit of a harder shot or an easier shot for you. And that's actually something that I think the original games, that was an opportunity that they missed with those. And so I was happy to see them take advantage of some of those things. But I really enjoy this game. My number 6 is 2022 Callisto in the Undaunted line.
The 2-player thing that you mentioned, that's actually one of the reasons that I haven't. This is a game that as you guys have talked about it before, it's one that I've been interested in, but it's one that I just haven't wanted to jump into because of that, because it's just harder for me to really get invested into it because of that same thing you mentioned.
I definitely get that.
Excellent. My number 6 is a lovely game called Harmonies. Harmonies is a drafting game where you have animals that or not animals. You have geographical features that you're trying to establish, and you're drafting tokens from the drafting board that has 3 tokens on it, and each of those tokens represent ecological,
like a different landscape feature.
Yeah,
right? So it's like
trees,
water, stone, wood, and tree, whatever.
Yeah, and so depending on like the trees, if it's on the ground, it's grass. If it's on a different if it's stacked 1 level high, it's a bush. If it's 2 levels high, it's a tree. Same thing with the rocks. You have just a hill, or it can go up to a mountain, and then they score differently as they're placed on your map too. Your mountains will only score if they're adjacent to other mountains, and or your rock will only score if it's next to other rock, and then depending on its height, how many points it's going to get for you. And then you have the unique thing about it is you have some of these features that you're trying to replicate onto your terrain in front of you on your board. Is if you complete that feature, some of them are one and done. That's great, you did it. Others you are very simple features, and so you have to create them several times. So you'll draft this card saying, I want to create this feature,
but you got to create it like 5-6 times.
So some of them up to 6 times, and you have to try to do that multiple places on your board, and then you're concerned about drafting what is available, what's not available. Are you going to be able to get that? And I love all that is going on a very small, very simple board.
Yeah, it keeps it condensed enough, right, that you've really got to like decide how you're going to use your space efficiently. And to me, that's the magic of Harmonies, is like when you can find ways to synergize the tokens that you're putting out on the board so that certain features count for multiple features. That's the whole thing, that it's not quite the same as like building a quote unquote combo, but that's what it's like, right? You're trying to get those features to work in multiple ways and kind of noodle and puzzle that out. So Harmonies is really good. It's a great game. I will say, so the one drawback to this is if you go really heavy into needing one resource,
Yeah.
almost every single time that I find myself needing one resource heavier than the rest, I find that that's the resource that doesn't get drawn from the bag.
Yep. Or you draw too many features because you can only have 4 features at the time.
Yep.
And that limits you to what resources you need of that resource or to complete those features. And yeah, it is a balance.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, one of the reasons that it shines for me is it is not just a straightforward, I can build all the things I want to build. No, I have to be careful that I'm not being too aggressive on my features. And then I have to also be somewhat dependent on what is available because you run into that quite often where the resource I need, not out there.
Yep. Fantastic. Okay, that'll take us to number 5. My number 5 is The Seventh Citadel. So this is a game that I have thoroughly enjoyed. I have not gotten through an entire story or campaign quite yet, but I'm well on my way into the first one. This is one that, if you're familiar with the Seventh Continent, it uses much of the similar design space and DNA. It's very, very similar in a lot of ways, but they changed the formula enough and improved it enough that I absolutely love it. Whereas with the original Seventh Continent, it was incredibly brutal and you could have hours and hours of gameplay erased by a death. This gives you some places to sort of save back to. It has a little bit more of a base management system that I think is really fun, some leveling up. The exploration is incredibly fun. If you've already gone to certain places and you need to kind of re-explore, it doesn't make you tread water. You can kind of just pass through stuff a little quicker and a little easier. I think the crafting is a little more streamlined. They just did a really great job of taking all of the best parts of Seventh Continent and then infusing it with, and I hesitate to say fixes, but just with an evolution, right? They took all the best parts and then evolved it into something that's even better now. And so, if anyone was actually even turned off by Seventh Continent because of some of the, because it was fairly brutal, it was a fairly unforgiving game. And if that was a turnoff for certain players, I would actually really recommend going and checking out Seventh Citadel. Because if you like that design and exploration and survival and crafting and all of that, this does it in such a way that is still very, very challenging and fun, but isn't quite so brutal and comes with, I think, a better story. In fact, I think I can say it's definitely a better story.
Excellent.
So I've really been enjoying that one, The Seventh Citadel.
All right. My number 5 is a fun game called Gnome Hollow. And Gnome Hollow is all about completing nature circles, which are rings of mushrooms that will give you points. You're trying to collect different mushrooms that are worth different points, trying to complete paths, and the size of your path or your ring indicates what tokens that you're going to be removing off of your board in order to try to score points that way. The tracks that you use to score the points, you have the number of flowers that you're trying to collect, the number of the number of different size paths that you're trying to complete, and all the mushrooms that you're trying to complete gives you a wide scope of ways to score points. And that's one of the things I think highlights this game for me, is just that you look at it and you think, okay, it's a very simple game, but there is a lot of depth and a lot of avenues for scoring and taking advantage and trying to, there are avenues to block your opponents. However, those avenues that block your opponents do not kill your opponents, right? It doesn't put you in a corner and you're like, I can't do anything. You can always move one of your gnome markers that is on the board to somewhere else. And so I think that's great. And also you can't add to somebody else's path, which is, unless you get their permission, which is kind of a nice, so that also prevents you from kind of being a jerk to somebody. So
I know this is one that several people, Greg and others, have really, really enjoyed. And as you're talking about it, I'm sitting here thinking, gosh, we talk about a lot of the campaign games that we play and the story, and just, it's amazing to me how vast people's imaginations are with the stories, obviously, but even just games like this that aren't really storied games, just the different themes, the different methods of scoring, the different goals, all of these things. Just, man, people are incredible, and thank goodness, because they make so many awesome games.
That's awesome. Yeah, this is still one I haven't played.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is one that you've chosen not to play, though.
Correct. Yeah. It's probably good. I think it's too long for what it's worth, but I haven't played it, so I shouldn't have too strong of an opinion either way. My number 4 is one that I know you're going to agree with, Nathan. It's Draft and Write Records.
Oh, I love.
I was wondering if we were
game.
going to get to that. I was like, maybe that was 2023.
Yeah, I had to double check too, because I was concerned that it was 2023, but no, it's been a
2024 Draft and
treasure.
Write Records, and it has really landed with our group. We've played this a bunch of times. It's gotten to the table a ton, and it's gotten played on BGA quite a bit as well. So we have games of this going all the time. I think it's fantastic. I totally understand that it's swingy and sometimes you have a bad game, but oh well.
Absolutely.
You just start over and try it again. Once you can get those combos to start cascading and feeding off of each other, though, it's just so fun and it just explodes in just a really cool way. I think the theme of it's really cool. I think that the whole drafting band members and getting them to harmonize with each other and taking those bonuses and filling in the lines with the different colors and all that kind of stuff. I just think this is a fantastic flip and write game. I guess it's a draft and write.
Yeah,
draft and write records, right? So yeah, you draft and write. I just think it's well executed. I think it's very well designed, and it can be played relatively quick. I mean, a game of this does not take very long to play.
Yeah, this is a game that I think shines more with more players.
I agree.
The variety of cards. I mean, they do manage it very well with the cards that are included in a 2-player game, 3-player game, 4-player game. But I find that there is more options to harmonize with your group in a larger player count, and it provides. Just provides more opportunity to get cards to chain.
Yeah. And this does come with, or it doesn't come with them, but there's 2 like little expansion packs, little card packs that come with this. And I kind of like the way that they did that because you don't just throw them in, you kind of have to replace certain cards with them. So you go through and you kind of pick and choose. But I actually recommend that you do that because you can actually kind of customize the experience a little bit. You can sort of go through and say, okay, well, maybe we want like a little bit more of the band harmonization versus some of these other areas. And so you can kind of pick and choose what cards and find like a nice balance. It does require a little bit of investment to get those expansions sort of integrated in a proper way. But I think once you do, the game really takes off even more than the base game. So it's a really good one. Draft and Write Records. It's awesome.
I haven't been a huge fan of a lot of the flip and write, draft and write, roll and write, like all of those games. This one might be my favorite. It's really good. And actually, when you were talking about harmonies, this is what I was thinking about the whole time. And I was like, I think it's 2024, but I'm not sure. So hopefully it will get talked about. Great game. Everybody that I know of that has played it has really enjoyed it as well.
Yeah.
Yep. It's very good.
Oh, and I didn't know that it was on BGA. So, it wouldn't hurt my feelings to get an invitation.
Sounds good. As you look off into the distance with sort of that yearning gaze, like, wouldn't hurt my feelings, guys.
It's a great game, and maybe if your friends liked you, they would invite you.
Yeah.
You should probably smack them around sometime, remind them that you were even around.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Is it's been so little that I've been able to show up. The only time that I play games, for the most part, is online. So,
you know what? Just reminded me. Talking, you and I actually finished our game of The Crew. We completed all the missions of The Crew.
We did. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So this last one was our...
These are bonus missions that we're doing now.
Okay.
But yeah, we went through, and that has taken months.
Yeah, it's been long.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you two. That's so cute.
We just had a moment.
The Mission Deep Sea one that we're going through, the 3 of us, I think we're finally going to win the one we're on, the current one we're playing.
We've been stuck for a bit.
Yeah, it was giving us some rough ones. The BGA app needs to be a little bit better about letting us eject certain combos. I mean, I know there's an option for that, but we've missed that window in a couple. Like, we've realized too late that they're incompatible goals. So we gotta figure that out. But that has been fun.
Yeah, Crew, but that's not a 2024 game.
No, it's not. Nope. But I was gonna say I Dave, you're not the only one who's not getting PGA invites. I don't know what's going on, but like, I don't know. I was really glad I got invited to Arc Nova recently because that was a lot of fun. I mean, and Dennis is going to beat us every time, almost every time, probably.
Actually, Richie's been winning most of those lately.
I mean, I'm not going to win, but I really love just being able to play it.
Yeah. So. No, we talked about it recently. And so Richie and I, when we were together with Dennis the other day, we're like, oh, you know what? And so I think I started that one. And of course I screw up everything that I do. And so like it was.
That's how Doug got invited.
Nice.
So I did it. So we all just had the baseboard. I didn't do.
Some of the options.
Yeah, some of the options.
So I need to invite you guys on some of those too. Cause I've been missing like A Feast for Odin and some of those that we were playing for quite a while back in the. Anyway, we digress. Did that all come off of my number 4 Draft and Write Records? Was that all tangent off of that? Okay,
yeah.
Wow. All right. Get us back on track, Nathan.
So what's your
number 4?
My number 4 is an amazing game, one that has been a highlight for 2024 for sure. And this is River of Gold. This is based in the Legends of the Five Rings universe. But this is an excellent game that just looks gorgeous. But you have 2 boats that you're running down the river. And on your option, you have the option to sail, to deliver goods, to...
stare off blankly.
Yeah, what is the third option?
I've never played.
Oh, and build. You have the option to deliver goods, to... Now I forgot the first ones. You have the option to sell to merchants, to build buildings, or to sail up the river and collect resources.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of your turn, you have the option to adjust your die value because you're going to roll your die at the end of your turn, and you're going to use that die result to determine which of those actions that you're going to take. There's a lot of opportunities as you're building buildings you're going to score points or score resources or score reputation on buildings that you build. And then when somebody else lands on them, they have a little kind of arrow shape on it. If they land their boat in that tile or that space, then they're going to get the reward at the front of that building, but that at the tail end, there's a bonus reward for the owner of the building. And so you want to be able to put buildings that are good for people out there because the residual rewards are going to be good for yourself as well. And then you have different merchants that you're trying to deliver to. Some of them like merchants, nobles, monks, and these monks all these characters will give you special abilities. Some of them will improve your boats. Some of them will give you end game scoring, and just a wide variety and a lot of challenge in this very simple game. This is one I'm very anxious to get my wife to play. Before we were recording tonight, I was trying to hurry and take my turns because it's been kind of a hectic couple of days. And so I'm kind of delayed on my turns. And so I was in a hurry to take it. And she was like, ooh, that looks like a busy game. She must have saw the size of the app and got scared. But
as opposed to the size of the box.
Yeah. But is one that I think that she will very much like because it does have a lot going on. There are a lot of ways to score and do things. But she plays ideally on her she plays almost solely. In fact, she does play solely on her phone. And I think this game might be a little too much for her phone. But this is a game that I'm very anxious to get to the table with her because I love this game. This is one of my highlights of the year is River of Gold.
Excellent. Yep. I've only played it the one time that we played it at BGG, and I loved it. I thought it was very good, and I'm very antsy to get it back to the table.
Yeah, it's an amazing game.
Good pick. Yep, that's great.
Top 3, Doug.
Top 3, here we go. My number 3, Slay the Spire. This is one I was just thrilled turned out to be as good as the video game that it's based on. I don't think you guys have played that video game at all, but it's a highly addictive deck building video game. It's incredibly fun. But it's also, it's one it's a solo game, right? You pick a character and fight the tower. You're fighting monsters and stuff as you go up the tower to the boss at the top. The way that they did this, though, allows up to 4 players to play together. So it's sort of like co-op Slay the Tower, which turns into a really, really fun experience. The deck building on this is super good. The ability to upgrade cards. The cards come in custom sleeves. And then what you do is the cards can all be flipped. So you can flip them over to an upgraded side if that's a card that you choose to upgrade. But the deck building on it is just really, really good. The implementation, the way that you move up and you kind of have to, as a group, sort of decide how you want to path your way up the tower, because certain paths will give you more opportunities to fight monsters for their loot and for the, experience and things that comes with that. But other paths might, lead you into more like random encounters and options to do other things. And so you kind of have to decide what path you're going to take, what monsters you want to fight. And then each sort of level of the tower also has sort of an end boss, and those boss fights are challenging and fun. And, it's not one that pulls any punches as far as that goes. It's definitely one that you can lose quite easily. And then through repeated plays, all of the characters in the game come with unlocks. So the more that you play the game, the more you can actually unlock special cards that can then get added into the decks to make them even better and unlock some bonus end game stuff from there. So if you're kind of familiar with the video game, that's kind of similar to how that worked. And they did such a great job. I mean, this is such a fantastic implementation of a board game based on a video game. It works really well. I love it.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of praise for this game. It's one I would very much want to try.
Well deserved. It's very good. Yep.
Excellent. My number 3 is the beautiful game Skyrise. Skyrise is a very unique bidding game where you are using your buildings to increase the bid. So you have all your buildings have a number value on the bottom of them, and to place your building out, you have to have a larger number than the player before you, and you must place that building in a spot adjacent to where the player before you placed their building. Very unique, has 4 regions. I guess it depends on the number of players, but it has up to 4 regions that surround a center region in the middle of the board, which is kind of weird that the center region is in the middle of the board, but apparently I had to point that out.
Good job.
Thanks.
I needed that clarification.
Yeah, as opposed to the center on, never mind.
On the left side of the board, yeah.
Yep.
Thank
Maybe
you.
that stage left.
Stage
anyway.
left. How far down this rabbit hole do you want to go?
I don't know. I get going and I just end up losing everything. But the pieces, the whitewash, the wash on these is beautiful. If I have the Kickstarter version, and the game works the same as in the base game, but if you can find this in the Kickstarter version with the upgraded pieces, this game just has a table presence that reminds me a lot of Foundations of Rome. Not quite to the extreme of Foundations of Rome, but does give me that same appeal. Just a very beautiful game, plays very well, and the paths to victory are a challenge as you try to corner your opponents into going a certain way, or trying to take advantage of paths that are left free open that are just for yours.
Awesome. Yeah, Skyrise is really fantastic. I remember when they were running the Kickstarter for this, I think both Dave and I kind of had our eyes on it, and I was going to back it, and then I heard you backed it. So I was like, okay, I was backing other things, and I was like, all right, I won't get this. And then when it showed up and we played it, I was like, man, I kind of wish I'd backed it now. This is a really good game, though. Skyrise is awesome.
Yeah.
Number 2 is another game that has fantastic table presence, fantastic components, fantastic deluxe edition, I guess I should say, because you don't necessarily have to buy the deluxe components. But this is one that's really hit a soft spot for me, and this is Let's Go to Japan.
Such a wonderful game.
It is an absolutely wonderful game. Yep. I love this. It's very simple in its drafting mechanism. And, for the most part, you could say like, well, you're just matching icons. There's so much more to it than that,
yes,
right?
there is.
Planning that entire trip out, trying to be efficient, making sure that you can switch between Kyoto and Tokyo, and that you have enough trains, making sure that you match enough icons that you can get the bonuses that you need, sort of pre-planning those bonuses. Everything that goes into this, I think, is just stellar, and it plays really fast, has a ton of simultaneous play. I think from beginning to end, it just fires on all cylinders. It's not hard to set up. It's easy to take down. The components are great. The art on those cards is amazing. It's the big tarot size cards. So there's a lot of art there. It's highly visible. There's no readability issues. The icons are clear. Everything in this game just works really well. And there's a ton of emergent strategy.
Yes.
Right. The more you play it, the more you're like, oh man, I could actually, you know what? I could do this. I could take a walk here instead of this other bonus and try to synergize and get some extra points. And there's just so many things to consider and do. This was such a well executed game. I love Let's Go to Japan.
Yeah, this is one that I highlight for me. I won the other day by staying completely in Kyoto.
I noticed that. Yeah. that was awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was great because I just took advantage of using some of those walks. And when I got cards that I couldn't use, but just planning the highlights of the day. Yeah. Let's Go to Japan is an amazing game.
Yeah.
And I love the way that it uses a very simple drafting mechanic and the way you have to stack the cards. You can use the top or the bottom. You can insert those in any position in your day, but each day can only hold 3 cards.
Right.
Yeah, it is not just a draft and match the icon game.
Not at all. Yep.
And
not at all. And the last game that you and I finished on BGA was 131 to 130. So it was
close.
1 point difference. Yeah. Yep.
Fritchett just taught this game to me at the last game night.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. I liked it quite a bit. I love travel. It's weird that I say that because it is so rare that I get to do it. But that really hit for me as well on this game, right? Because that's what it is, right? You're planning this trip, and my strategy that game was based on some of my first cards that I got. And I was just like, you know what, we're gonna have this great vacation, and it's really gonna just close out in a bang. And so I just had the bonuses for the last 2 days are what I was really banking on. I was like, you know what, I'm going to just score huge on those bonuses. And so a lot of my week was just building up to that. But just the thought of the vacation and just having just the greatest final 2 days of this vacation I don't know, it just the whole thing hit really, really well. And it ended up working out. And so I'm playing a couple games online now, and I'm just like, man, I'm not liking any of these bonuses, because you know how I try to break a game, right? And I try to, and that's essentially kind of what I did there with that.
You do like to try. And it's amazing how often you succeed.
Amazing? I don't know if it's amazing.
Well, maybe amazing's not the right word.
It is uncanny that he does it.
It is uncanny.
But I wouldn't use amazing. Amazing is a positive word.
Okay. We'll go with uncanny for now.
All right. My number 2 is a game that we actually already kind of talked about, and that is From the Moon. From the Moon was a game that I was very excited when I ordered it, and very excited to play it. And I do very much enjoy this game, but I do find that, it's not one that I'm anxious to play with Andy. But the whole mechanics of the game, where you have your rovers that you're sending out, you have 3 rovers that you're going to be moving around the board, and what resources you can collect depends on the type of astronauts that you have in those rovers, and you can only put 3 astronauts in those rovers, and you cannot shift those around. So you have to try to make that plan early on and look at what is available on the board, which is randomly set up at the first, and you're trying to put your buildings between those resources to collect again. There's so much going on in this game that it is a heavier game, not a heavy game, but a heavier game. And the complexity and the avenues to score points gives such a wide variety that the game doesn't get old for me. And this is a game that I feel I haven't played enough, but nobody wants to play with Andy anymore. And so, because he
you're going to have to play with Andy.
I'll do that. I think Dave will still play.
I will, but it probably won't be a surprise to you guys that after that first play, I did say I enjoyed it, but I'm never playing with Andy again.
Oh, nice. Welcome to Team Hate
Welcome
Andy.
to the club.
But of course I will.
Excellent. But that's my number 2,
good.
From the Moon, which is a phenomenal game. And the pieces are very well put together. However, the astronauts I do find a little flimsy, which is why I did try to put magnets in them. I bought some very nice magnets that were the perfect size to fit in the bottom of the astronauts, that had a nice divot in there that was perfect for them.
Yeah.
But
it definitely had some
polarity is set correctly.
Yeah. This had some fun components for sure. I do feel like it had some chintzier stuff too, and some I remember the iconography on it being a little confusing, but that might have just been a me thing. So it's one that I'm really glad you guys have enjoyed.
And we have.
Good.
I have.
Good. My number one is, I think this is a phenomenal game. This is one that me and my son have been playing. We usually try to play around on Sundays, on lazy Sunday afternoons when we have a little time. This is just a giant monster battle game. I've talked about it before. This is Primal, The Awakening. And it's so good. The card play on this game is fantastic, and it's just fighting big monsters. And there is a really cool story that ties each fight together. So it's not just a string of haphazard fights. It does have a little bit of a pick your own path thing. You can choose which monsters you want to fight at any given time. You're not going to get to fight them all. So the campaign, I think, is like 12 missions. So it's not a huge daunting Gloomhaven style campaign. But what I really like about it though, is that when you're done fighting a monster, you kind of just jump into like reading some story and figuring out how you want to go use your forges and upgrade stuff and get better gear and weapons and craft potions. And it's sort of just like a crafting and character development phase that happens mixed with some story. And then you just pick your next fight and go. So the in-between mission cleanup is like super, super easy, but also really, really fun because that's when you're building your character up. And then you just jump into the next fight. And if you lose that fight, you just reset to the beginning. You just try it again. It's a brutal game. Like it definitely, especially as you get up, like each monster has like 4 tiers of difficulty, and it sort of forces you to climb those tiers as you further go down the campaign storyline. And so especially as the monsters get harder and harder, like it definitely becomes harder and harder to win. And we have absolutely gotten our rear ends kicked on a number of times and had to restart some of those fights. So it's definitely one where, it's only 12 missions, but it might take you 20 or so plays to get through it because you definitely are not going to win every time you.
Yeah. I like that. I like a game that is not, I mean, I enjoy winning, right? But when a game is too easy, then it just kind of comes pointless.
Yeah, I agree. But this is awesome. Like all the minis are really good. Like again, the components and stuff. And I backed like the terrain pack and some of those things. So there's some cool stuff to kind of put out on the battle map. And strategy wise, there's some really fun things to do. The card play, like I said, is really awesome. You're trying to build these really cool combos. It has some built-in mechanisms where you can actually assist each other. Like when it's not your turn, you can assist other players. So there's like a strong sense of cooperation and how can we set things up to do maximum damage to the monster? How can we avoid its counterattacks? The AI system in it's really good, et cetera, et cetera. It's just overall a very well-designed game that's engaging and fun the whole time you're playing.
Yeah, it sounds good and it looks good. Table presence is amazing.
Yeah.
All right, my number one is Let's Go to Japan.
Sweet.
So we've already talked about that, and it's still a great game. Nothing has changed since it was your number 2.
Fantastic. Great game.
All right, so that completes our lists. But hey, let's take a quick look at our highlights of the year, and let's just kind of go through those kind of rapid fire, not too long on those.
Sure. So, okay. So really quickly, a few that I missed just barely, right? So these are some that I missed just by a whisker. These were 2023 games. Deliverance, which I thought was a really great Christian themed dungeon crawl. Evenfall, which is the one where you play as the witch covens. And it's got some very cool multi-purpose cards. Really, really fun game. I've thoroughly enjoyed Thunder Road Vendetta, and that's one that I can't wait. Hopefully we get that to the table very soon. We have to get that one to the table again soon
I'm
because
very excited about that.
I've got that one on the brain. Thunder Road Vendetta is very good, but it was a 2023 game. Nunatak Temple of Ice is a game that I've talked about a little bit. This is a game that's on the simpler side, but it has some incredible components where you're building like essentially a big 3D temple in the middle of the table. Thoroughly enjoyed that one, played that one with my kids. And then the Isofarian Guard that I talked about at the beginning, that was a 2023 game, and the White Castle, which was a 2023 game. All of those I thought were wonderful, fantastic games. I had mentioned briefly Firefly. That was one that came out in 2013 that you guys have talked about for a long time. So I'm glad we got to that. It's a Wonderful World. I finally got through playing the campaign, both of the campaigns for that with my daughter actually. And that was an incredibly fun experience. That's a 2020 game. Legends of Sleepy Hollow, which we need to pick back up. We played that really heavy during the Halloween season. I'd like to pick that one back up. That was a 2022 game. And then the last one I'll mention was just Tainted Grail. I was able to get through the Tainted Grail campaign. That was a 2019 game but I had just an absolute blast getting through Tainted Grail. I thought that was a phenomenal game.
Excellent. All right. My highlights of 2024, some of these games that just stuck out. Halloween, which was a game that I was very surprised. This is a game that does not fit my personality at all. Scary movies has never been my go-to thriller. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen any of the Halloween movies.
No.
And but this is a hidden role game where one person is playing Jason and one person is playing Michael Myers and the other players are playing the victims, and they're trying to collect some important things. They're trying to collect both kids, set of keys, and get into the correct van and get out of town. One person is the only one person needs to get out of town for the victims to win. But Mike Myers has to eliminate a number of the players to win. This game was a big fun and a surprise for me. Captain Flip was another game that I was very surprised at. I shamed it quite a bit, thinking it was very dumb. And then after playing it, this game has been phenomenal. Draft and Write Records, we already talked about. Daybreak was another game that I had.
Surprised both of us, actually. That probably should be on my list, too.
Yeah, it was a game I kind of wrote off.
Yep, that was really good.
It has turned out to be a very, very fun game and very good. For
the genius of it is the card play.
Yeah.
To be clear, because I know the theme is kind of a little bit of a turnoff. It was for us, and I think it's going to be for other people, right? Carbon sequestration, right? Cooperative kind of thing. But it's the card play. It has genuinely really good card play.
Amazing card play. Yeah. Yep. That's what shines. That's what shines about the game. Forges of Ravenshire, one we already talked about, an excellent game from BA Games. Thunder Road Vendetta, we just talked about. Voidfall was a massive game that we got to the table, one of the higher complex games, one I'm very much looking forward to getting to the table more often. We need to permit other people to play that. It is a very rules-intensive fire hose, not even a fire hose, it's a waterfall of information that comes out at you. And then White Castle that we just talked about. We just have the matcha expansion. That
really need to play that.
Yeah.
I want to play that for sure.
Looking forward to that. Skyrise, Let's Go to Japan, From the Moon. Like I said, some of these games, as their highlights on my list, the order doesn't match up with my highlights of the games. The highlight of the games was what the components brought. The highlight of the games to me, for the excitement for the year, varies a little bit. But Skyrise, Let's Go to Japan, From the Moon. And then, of course, Marvel Zombies has been amazing. That experience has been great. Pirates of Maracaibo took that love for Maracaibo and just whittled it down to amazing. And Pirates of Maracaibo has been just that. And then my number 2 was River of Gold, which I've already gushed over. And then my surprise to me was my number 1, and that is Dinogenics, a game that you introduced me to, Doug. And I just can't get enough of this game.
Yeah, it's so good. And I can't wait for the new content to come out. The New Arrivals, I think is what it's called. So more dinosaurs, more things to do at the parks, a little bit of a revision of some of the cards and mechanics. And we've been playing this on BGA, and it's unfortunate that they don't have the Controlled Chaos expansion in there, because we need to get it to the table again soon so that we can get that Controlled Chaos. Because as fun as the base game is, and it is really fun, that Controlled Chaos expansion makes it all the better.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm really glad you're liking this game as much as you are. That's awesome.
I'm loving this game. But yeah, that's my highlights of the year. Dave, do you have any highlights of the year that stuck out to you besides graduating?
I made it to game night a couple of times.
That's awesome.
There we go.
Sometimes that's as good as it gets.
Right.
That's awesome.
Well, we're glad you're here, Dave. We're glad you didn't fall asleep, and we're glad to have some of your insight.
Yeah, you can go.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Good to have you. And on that note, until next time.
We'll see you checking off that year, 2024. Put it in the books. It's done. Now it's time to get back to the game table.
And 2025.
2025. And more new amazing games. More games.
Can't wait.
Thank you for listening and being a part of Meeple Nation. If you would be so kind as to follow, subscribe, share, and rate or review this podcast, it really helps to spread the fun. You can be more involved in supporting the podcast by joining the nation at patreon.com/meeplenation, or you can find a link at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. And while you're there, look at all our extra content. There are links to all our past episodes, a wide variety of blogs, pictures from our Instagram feed, and bios for all the hosts and our awesome bloggers. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all under Meeple Nation. If you would like to chat with the hosts or other members of the nation, you can join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. We hope to see you again at a game night, a con, or maybe a suspense-driven evening of Werewolf. Thank you for listening and supporting Meeple Nation, and stay tuned for next week's episode.
Thank you so much for listening. We very much want to thank our patrons who help keep the podcast running. I personally want to thank my co-hosts for all the help they provide with both content here on the podcast, in addition to what we have available on our website. Without them, the podcast would not happen. If you too would like to support the podcast, you can join the nation at patreon.com/meeple_nation. Or you can find a link to Patreon at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. If you have any questions, comments, or games you feel should be on our radar, you can always reach us at meeplenation@gmail.com. We can't wait to hear from you. I am grateful to Doug and Andy who helped me edit episodes, and I want to thank James and Kim Clark who do the editing on our blogs and on our webpage, which can be found at meeplenation.com. We want to thank Brain Detergent for our music. If you want to find more from him, you can follow his links that can be found on our webpage, or simply search for Brain Detergent on YouTube to find more of his tracks. Thank you again for listening and being part of the Meeple Nation community.